That was great. That was great. Man, way to go, Lionel. That was awesome. Hi, everyone. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back. Welcome back. I hope that you all had a fantastic break. I hope Christmas is great. Hope New Year's is great. Welcome to 2020. It looks good on you. I am excited to be back because tonight we're jumping into a brand new teaching series called Canceled, because right now we got a bunch of people setting resolutions, setting goals for the next year, maybe even the next decade. But one of the things that so easily gets in the way of us accomplishing our goals or accomplishing our resolutions is that in order to say yes to anything big, we have to say no to so many things that hold us back. And so with this series, we're going to talk about what we need to cancel in order to commit to the life that God has for us. So to kick it all off, I want to begin by talking about an issue that I think lies underneath the surface of many of our lives. But this issue can be kind of the driving force behind why we do what we do, why we need to keep up with culture or create TikTok videos. Why you need like a YouTube channel, or you need to succeed in school, or you need to find a fulfilling kind of life. The issue that I'm talking about tonight is discontentment. See, discontentment is that nagging feeling of always wanting more. And I can relate with that. There are plenty of things in my life that I want more of. I want more time in the day. I want more sleep at night. I want more Oreos. Like, do you know a person who can eat one Oreo? If you do, don't trust that person. Like, I'm eating a sleeve at least, if not the whole thing. Like, I want more Oreos in my life, okay? But the problem I run into is that when I'm wanting more obsessively, it's usually because I'm running away from an insecurity that I have. For instance, a few months ago, I celebrated my 30th birthday, which was a big deal for me. I was excited about it. I was leaving adolescence, stepping into adulthood. But somebody laughed when I said stepping into adulthood. Listen, I am an adult, okay? Come on. But I was excited about it. I mean, I was gonna thrive in my 30s, but then I started to realize that my 30s were taking something away from me. I realized, and this is hard for me to admit, but I am losing my hair. Listen, I'm still a little sensitive about it. That's why I got the hat on, which, by the way, you can pick up at the merch table after you leave, so pick that up, know what I'm saying? But I'm losing my hair, you guys. And I didn't notice it all at once. It kind of snuck up on me. It first kind of dawned at me when I would look back at pictures of myself from high school, like this one. Yo, look at that mane right there. I mean, look at the confidence in that dude's eyes. Like, he's gonna take over the world. This is 11th grade Brandon right here. Ladies, watch out, okay? But then I would look at myself in the mirror and the images did not match and didn't feel good. Didn't feel very good. Lost that confidence, lost a little bit of the other stuff. And then it started to come up in conversations with my wife on date night. And let me tell you, that is not how you want to end a date night with your wife. Like, hey, honey, by the way, you're going bald. That's not a confidence booster, okay? And then something happened that was a little bit unexpected. I didn't expect this one. So when I accepted this job as the high school teaching pastor, I was so excited. I was thrilled that I was gonna have an opportunity to stand in front of you guys and talk to you about Jesus, because the truth is that you're some of my very favorite people on the planet. I think about you and pray for you often. But it also meant that I was gonna be kind of like a public spectacle. Like, you're gonna some of you are looking at me on like really big screens right now. And I have this theory that when you look at someone long enough, you start to wonder who they remind you of. And if there is one person on the planet that so many of you have compared me to, it has to be Logic. Has to be Logic. I mean, like, you see it? Do you want to do this? Do you see it? No? But Logic. Now, listen, Logic was one of those celebrities that I had like heard before I'd seen. Like, I'd heard his music before I saw a picture of him. And so when all of you jabronis were comparing me to Logic, I was like, yo, I gotta look this dude up. And so I went on Google, and I kid you not, the first picture that I saw of this dude was this. That's a fresh dome right there, friends. There's no hair on that head. 0 hair on that head right there. And look, any comparison to Logic is a compliment. He's a good-looking dude. He's good at what he does. But look, I'm 30 now. Like, I'm losing my hair. Like, I didn't think that was ever gonna be a sentence that I would even say. And when I realized that I was losing my hair, I started asking myself, what else am I losing? Like, am I losing influence? Am I losing relevancy? Am I getting ugly? Like, what's next after this? All of these things started to roll through my head, and I know that might seem over dramatic, but when it felt like I didn't have enough hair, it felt like I didn't have enough of anything. And so let me ask you, what do you feel like you don't have enough of? Maybe for some of you, you don't have enough time. Maybe for some of you, you feel like you don't have enough friends or enough followers or enough clout. Or maybe it goes a little bit deeper. You don't have enough attention. You don't have enough courage. You don't have enough love. You see, many of us are probably wanting more of or not having enough of something, but that really isn't the problem. Wanting more of something isn't always wrong. The problem is when our sense of contentment is dependent on gaining more and more and more. And so with the time I have left, I want to talk to you about one primary killer to your contentment that will leave you discontent in your life so that we can learn how to cancel it in order to commit to a true sense of contentment. And the killer that I want to talk about tonight is comparison. See, I ran into the problem of comparison for the first time that I can remember when I was in high school, because that was the first time that I started to identify myself by what I was not. So I joined the basketball team, quickly realized that I am not an athlete. I didn't look like them. I couldn't play ball like them. I didn't smell like them. Just wasn't like them. So I joined an honors math class, maybe go the other direction, right? And I realized that I am not as smart as my parents think that I was. Brendan, you can do anything. No, I can't, Mom. I can't pass this class. I'm not like them. Then I joined all of these social clubs that my school offered, and I realized that I am not extroverted enough to be around that many people, so many people all the time. And I just kept feeling like I kind of don't like those people. Like, I didn't like the people that were succeeding in school or succeeding in sports or succeeding in these clubs. I didn't like them because I wasn't like them. And I started to get resentment in my heart and bitterness. I wouldn't celebrate when they would achieve something. I would laugh it off. I would distance myself from them. And comparison started to chip away at my contentment. But I wasn't the first person to run into this problem of discontentment and comparison. There was a man in the Bible, his name is Solomon, and the Bible talks about him as the wisest man to have ever lived. And this is what he writes on this subject. He says, jealousy, which is another way of saying comparison, I want what they have more than what I have, is like cancer in the bones. Comparison or jealousy is like cancer in the bones. It keeps us going back onto Instagram to look one more time at their amazing life, their new shoes, their new friends, their new vacation, their new clothes, their new weird dance move that I'm working on. I can't quite do them yet, but I'll learn the TikTok dances and it's gonna be epic. But I don't have it down quite yet. But we look at them more and more and more and realize that you can't do them either. Comparison will keep us in a cycle of believing that we don't have enough and what we do have isn't enough. And so we will go out of our way to get the new phone. We'll go out of our way to get those crisp white Air Force Ones. We will go out of our way and spend hours alone in our room practicing these odd dance moves. Maybe we'll go a little bit too far with a boyfriend or a girlfriend. We'll go to that party, or we'll start harboring discontentment or bitterness in our heart. You see, comparison, like cancer, will kill your contentment. So what are you comparing your life to? For some of you, it is someone or something on Instagram, YouTube, TikTok that looks like this perfect DIY project while your life is completely unfinished and a mess. And for some of you, it's that person who has a lot more money than you. Or you're comparing yourself to someone who it seems like they have their life figured out. Or you're comparing your singleness to their relationship, or your family to their family. See, when Solomon was an old man and he was looking back on his life and all that he had learned, he came back to this idea of comparison and discontentment. And this is what he had to say. He said, I have observed that most people are motivated to success because they envy, because they want more, because they want what they have, because what they're doing is better than what I'm doing. They're looking at what their neighbors have and despising what they have, but this too is meaningless. It's like chasing the wind, which means it will get you nowhere. Nowhere in your emotional health, nowhere in your friendships, nowhere in your relationship to God. It's like chasing the wind. Comparison doesn't lead to contentment, it leads to bitterness, dissatisfaction, and missing out on God's purpose for your life. Like, imagine that you and I were too busy comparing what we don't have to what they have, and we miss out what God has for us to live. Because the truth is, God has something for you to carry out in the world. But we'll miss it. We'll miss it if we're constantly comparing ourselves to everything and everyone else. So if we want contentment in our life, we have to cancel comparison before comparison cancels the calling that God has on our life. And the only way to really do this is to commit to something else. In order to say no to something, we have to say yes to something else. And what we need to commit to is a true sense of contentment. And I'm here to tell you tonight this, that contentment comes from Christ. See, friends, Christ is the ultimate gift given to us so that we might know true contentment in our everyday life. Jesus himself taught us this in John 16 when he says, I have told you these things so that in me you may have peace or a sense of completeness or a sense of contentment in this life. Because in this world you will have trouble. You will be discontent, but take heart, for I have overcome the world. The truth is, friends, you will be discontent. You might not get into the college that you really want to. The relationship you're in might not last. You might have to work a job that you don't like. You will want more and more and more. But the truth is, none of those things will bring you a lasting sense of contentment, because all of those things are conditional or they're limited. But Jesus is reminding us that he is greater, that he is unlimited, that his love for you and me is eternal. His acceptance of you right where you're at, right with what you have, it has no end. See, finding contentment in the fact that our peace and well-being will never come to us by gaining what someone else has or requiring more, because it has already been freely given to us in Jesus Christ. Paul was a guy who wrote most of the second half of the Bible, and he learned this lesson in his life because, you see, he was born into the right, he had it all. He was born into the right family. He went to the right school. He had the right job. And yet his young life was defined by comparing himself up against these lists of rules that he was constantly trying to improve on. And he was chasing more and more respect and more attention until one day he met Jesus. And he realized that all of those things that he once thought were valuable, that would bring meaning to his life, failed, were garbage compared to the value that Jesus brought into his life. This is how Paul says it in Philippians chapter 3. He says, I once thought these things were valuable. Those things that defined me. Those things that I was chasing after. Those things that I compared myself up against. I thought they were valuable. But now I consider them worthless because of what Christ has done. Yes, everything else is worthless when compared to the infinite value of knowing Christ Jesus my Lord. And he goes on to say, for his sake I have discarded everything else, counting it all as garbage so that I could gain Christ and know him. You see, at some point, if we really truly want to go after contentment in our life, we have to become discontent with our discontentments. What I mean by that is we have to get to a place where we realize that even if we get what we're chasing after, even if we get what we're comparing ourselves to, it won't leave us more happy. It won't leave us full. It will leave us wanting more and more and more. And we have to become discontent with that state of mind. And I'll be honest, I have learned that lesson in my life the hard way many times. One of them was when my wife Kelsey and I were at the lowest point of our marriage. See, we were living in Ohio and I had this job that I loved. I could see a future for myself in this job. It was like a dream job for me. And I was taking every opportunity to grow and advance. And while I was chasing my dream, my wife needed me. Because she was at the lowest point in her emotional health that she had ever been. It was wreaking havoc on her mind and her body and her soul. What she really needed to do was move away from Ohio back to Minnesota so that she could be in a familiar place with her family and her husband around her to help her grow in health and get better. But that would mean that I would have to leave my job, my dream in Ohio, and move to Minnesota. And I honestly wasn't sure I could do it. And one night, Kelsey had had enough. She came to me and she said, Brandon, I am moving back to Minnesota, and you can come with me or you can stay in Ohio. And the truth is I didn't know what to decide. It was not a no-brainer for me. So what I did was the next day I went over to a friend's house, a friend that I knew and trusted and knew that they loved me enough to tell me the truth about me. And I asked him to pray for me and give me some advice, and we had a long conversation. At the end of it, he said something to me that I don't think I will ever forget. He said, Brandon, your contentment won't be found by chasing your dreams. It will be found by chasing the one who gave you the ability to dream in the first place. You see, in that moment, I realized that my contentment did not depend on my job. It didn't depend, and it couldn't depend on my marriage or anything that I could produce by my own strength. My contentment needed to depend on Christ becoming my strength, realizing that he's the treasure, realizing that he is enough, realizing that what he has to offer my life is better and more than anything I could ever chase or ask for. He's the answer. Paul said it best, I think, in Philippians 4, the very next chapter. He said, I have learned how to be content with whatever I have, for I can do everything. I can make it through difficult times in relationships. I can be okay wearing the clothes that I'm wearing. I can be okay living in the house that I live. I can be okay coming from the city that I come from. I can be okay with the amount of followers that I have, with the amount of influence that I have. I can be okay with everything because through Christ, he will give me strength. Friends, I wonder what it would look like for you to be content with whatever you have right now. Not someday in the future, but right now. What would that look like? For some of you, your life would have to change a bit. I think gratitude would probably have to rise up in you a little bit more. You have to get to a place where you wake up in the morning and you realize, Jesus, thank you for a new day. Thank you for putting breath in my lungs. Thank you for giving me food and the clothes that I do have. Thank you for giving me a family and a friend group. Thank you for giving me a church that I can go to grow, to develop new friends, to step outside of my comfort zone every once in a while so that you can come more alive in me. Thank you. For others of you, it might be actually celebrating the accomplishments of someone else because you're not competing with them anymore. You're not comparing your life to theirs anymore because what you have in Jesus is so much greater than what they might have on the surface. It has brought new life to you. So friends, my question for you is, are you ready to cancel comparison? Are you ready to get rid of the discontentment in your life? And if so, are you then willing to commit to the contentment that only comes from Christ? If you are, I want to challenge you to be grateful. Practice gratitude. Take a moment and take stock of your life and what you do have and recognize that it is all a gift. I want to challenge you to celebrate people genuinely. Not because you want to be better than them, not because you want to look good on the outside, but to get to that point where you can say, you succeeded, and I'm not in competition with you, and so I'm happy with you because what I have in Jesus is better than any competition I win on this earth. He's enough for me. And the last thing is I want to give you something. As you leave today across all of our campuses, there'll be people in the back, and they'll have these pins. This pin that I'm wearing here, it's just a little pin with a cross that comes from our branding. And if you're ready to cancel discontentment and commit to Christ, I want you to take one of these pins and put it on a hoodie, put it on your backpack, put it in your car, put it somewhere where you will see it to remind yourself that today I'm not competing. Today I'm not comparing. Today, I'm not trying to get what they have. Today, I'm content with what I have because what I have is all of Jesus. Not a little bit, not a half portion, not a little bit on the side. I've got the whole thing, and that is enough for me today. Grab one of these pins on your way out to remind yourself that in 2020, we are canceling discontentment and committing to the contentment that only comes in knowing Christ. Friends, let me pray for you across all of our campuses. Jesus, thank you so much for the friends in all of these rooms. Thank you, God, that they showed up tonight, whether they're new or they've been coming for weeks. It's a big deal to show up. It's a sacrifice to show up. That means something. That matters. God, I pray that for all of the students in rooms across the Twin Cities right now that are hearing this message of contentment and comparison and moving forward and achieving more, God, that they would feel a sense of peace. They wouldn't feel judgment right now, God, but they would feel you with them, encouraging them, empowering them. And then, God, I pray that you would compel them to commit to the contentment that comes from you. May we celebrate others' achievements, and may we be grateful for what we have. So, God, we trust you and we love you in Christ's name. Amen. Thanks, Rev. See y'all next week. Peace.